Happy Feral Monday, my friends. Sorry I'm getting on late today. We were catching up on stuff. We have one of our brushes restocking this week, so we were getting all of that together. We were in our meetings for that. I'm not gonna tell you which one because I want to surprise you, but one of the brushes is the ones that aren't, they're all gonna be restocking, okay? The ones that are not out of stock right now, but there's one coming this week. I'm excited. Now tomorrow I am going to try my best to get on here and do a tutorial for y'all because we have so many meetings, because we have things coming. I have a brand meeting tomorrow, not Rosamond Beauty, a meeting with another brand. And I have a couple of those actually tomorrow. So I'm going to try my best. I'm going to try. But in the meantime, look at this. We got duochromes in here. Whee! I'm so excited. I really want to do something with these kind of greens. This here, look at this black. Look, it's a black that has a green sparkle. We call that a sequin because it's still a matte, but it's a matte that has big old sparkles in it. It's not a shimmer. Do you see that? Ooh, that's gonna be nice. Let's play with makeup. So 𝗕𝗲𝘂𝘂𝘁 has their own eyeshadow primer. Let's try that out today. Okay, so it's gonna be a transparent one, which I'm fine with. Let's just try it out. But even though I just put that on and it looks like it might be even, it's absolutely not even. So I always take a C31, and no matter what kind of base I'm using, if it's the most transparent base that's ever transparented, I'm still going to make sure that I go all the way across and make sure it's really even. It's going to help how the eyeshadow wears, how it goes on. It's just a very important step. So I want a transition, but I don't really see the transition I want in here. Oh, this is pretty. We'll get to that. So let me explain what I'm going to do. Whenever I don't see a transition that I like in a palette, I'll just grab a bronzer. Now I grabbed shade 3 because I actually want something a little bit more olive. Now listen, you don't have to get this intricate. It is Feral Monday, but this can teach you kind of undertones in your bronzer. So the one I normally use has a little bit more of a neutral pink, but this actually has, when you hold it over here next to these greens, you kind of see the green in it. You kind of start to, especially if I turn it down, or here, I'm just trying to make sure the light hits it, but isn't just blinding it. So this one, while it's still a bronzer, you're still going to see the bronzer tone. It actually does have some olive in it, so it's going to tie in nicely with the olive we're about to do. So we're using this kind of as the transition, kind of as the base. It's going to give something for the olive to transition into in just a little while. And we're even going to add the olive a little bit higher, okay? It's going to mix in there. And even though this is going to be a look that most of us might not participate in, we're still learning about transitioning. We're learning about undertones. We're learning things that can help us no matter where we are in our makeup journey or where we are headed. Now I'm using the side of the E28 to transition this. And I like the base. The base feels really, really nice. It's not sticky at all. It feels very comfortable, but it also feels like it's has that little bit of wetness we need to enhance color in eyeshadow. For reference, since we're learning, this is the one I use all the time, right? And you can see that difference in color. This one doesn't have any green in it. There's no green there. It's more of a neutral going over into pink. This one you can start to see that it goes, and when I say green, I mean olive. We've heard olive undertones. So this one would be really, really nice. Let me hold this one up compared to these kind of greens. And you can just go with all of the greens. There you go. You can see that that one just looks a lot more red, pink, compared to that green. And then you can see the one that we're using has that more olivey tint. Now, we've learned something. Now this is a really good tip. Say we still want to get coverage, right? We still want to cover up maybe a freckle here. We want this look to be more full coverage, but we wanted to use a base that was translucent. What we're going to do now is we're going to take a powder foundation, and this is a really good tip no matter what kind of eye look you're going to do. Now I did switch to a fluffier brush, and the reason why is because I want not complete, intense, wild coverage, but I'm still gonna be able to get quite a bit of coverage by pressing. See that starting to disappear? And don't be afraid to take this all the way on top of your bronzer, because we can add more and let it melt into our skin tone and undertone that we're applying here. And this just kind of takes, I'm picking up more, just on one side, pressing. And just remember, the fluffier the brush, the more diffused that coverage is going to be. But we're adding the coverage that we were missing with the clear. Now, same E29. We'll just grab just a tap on the tip of the brush, and then we'll just melt it in to the powder foundation. See how nice that looks? So smooth. Just the most even blend. And if you want to leave it like this and not get all wild and start getting into the black and the duochromes and the sparkly like we're about to, you could. And you're just going to have the most seamless blend. Seamless. We learn a lot here. All right, let's keep trucking here. I'm so excited. This palette is so beautiful. So let's start with this shade. I want to do this on my inner corner. It's happening. We're not there yet. We're switching back to an E28 because we're going to have a little bit more precision, because I want to start to pack this into my socket. I want most of it there. And then once you start to transition this shade, oh, that's so pretty, and push it into the bronzer. I'm going to switch to the side of the brush now that we're on the flatter part and not in the socket. Oh yeah. This is a party I want to go to. Okay, tip of the brush for control. Push it in there and leave your eye open. It's actually so much easier. And then use the side to transition. Now, it's time for this color. Notice I switched to a smaller brush. Even at this stage in my makeup journey, if I'm dealing with a black eyeshadow, I'm using the tiniest brush. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna push this, and I want this to be a little bit more graphic. Pushing this out of the socket. Don't even worry about that lid space. We will clean that up later. If we worry about that, we're not gonna have the control that we need. Okay, let's start from the bottom lash line. Stamp that on. I'm gonna do the same thing over here while I've got it there. Okay, cool. I'll come back and fix that in a minute. But right now I just want to kind of connect this. Jean is snoring and making his little weird noises. Pretty. And then I'm going to pick some of the black eyeshadow up on one side of the brush. Wow, look at how black that is. Perfect. Now I can always add more in a second, but I'm just cleaning this up just to take a gander and see where I'm at. Take a gander. So if you ever wonder why I say these things, my dad used to say a lot of the old sayings that I say, and they just make me think of him. And he passed away 10 years ago now. My gosh, time has flown. But when I say those, it just kind of, you know, makes me think of it. And this might be one of my favorite black eyeshadows. I want to try another version that they have without the green sparkles. You don't really see the green sparkles too wildly, but I mean, they are there. And we don't always want green sparkles. So I'm gonna go through the other palettes this week, and I'll see if that black eyeshadow compares to this one, because that looks like an abyss. It's so good. Oh, and by the way, you can use my code ROSE for a discount on any of the palettes. There's palettes that aren't quite as whimsical as this one, and it is a discount code, but I don't make commission because I didn't feel like I needed to make commission. I want the brand to get all of it because they're amazing. So yeah, if you want to use my code, my discount code, there it is. So I kind of want to keep the definition, but I want a wispity wisp of that olive to just melt into the black a little bit. So remember, if you want a wispity wisp, we're going to grab an E29, grab it on the side, tiny amount, and I'm just going to soften the line just a hair. I think I might want to, oh, that looks so good. Sometimes when it starts to blend so perfectly, you have to whisper it or you'll scare it. Picked up a little bit more. Lovely. what I was going to do is I think I'll just stamp just a little bit more over this way. Just a little bit. I don't want it quite as defined. Perfect. So I've decided I'm not really going to clean up over here as much. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'll take my E27 and I'm just going to kind of push some of that black over this way as a base for the duochrome. Remember, anything jewel tone, think emerald, sapphire, ruby, think anything like that, right? Generally, it's going to have a black base to it, at least a darker base. Even these, if I kind of don't let the light hit them, you can kind of see that there's a dark base there. So you'll have more impact if you have a darker base underneath the shadow like that. But why I'm squawking and squeaking is because I'm going to take my C31 and some of my cellar water, and I'm going to clean up the front part here to about right there, because I'm going to do a white base, because we're going to do neon. All right, I'm going to grab my Melt Cosmetics base. Love these, by the way. I use these all the time. They do lean towards the warm side. So I'm still going to use my Armani one a little bit more often because I like something a little bit more neutral, more cool. So, but if you have a warm undertone, you're going to love these. Now they have a black one and a white one, and that's more for these fun, wild looks that we like to do. Let's grab a C31 and I'm just going to even this out. See how pigmented that is though? They're really good. And they have really nice play time. So you don't have to worry about them drying too quickly, but they will completely dry down, which is also really nice for longevity. We are having fun because it's Feral Monday. We can do whatever we want. I was gonna say it reminds me of a bug. I like bugs. I actually get a lot of inspiration from certain bugs. Really any bug but a cockroach. I'm a little spiced. So I recorded all of this and then IG just kept going with the loading. I'm so upset that you did not get to see this go on. Please forgive me. Me and IG are fighting right now. So I grabbed an E27 and all I did was really pack this on top of the white. And the reason that we use the white is because neon has a lot of white in it. If you were to stare at a neon eyeshadow, you'd really start to see that white base in there. So that's why we use the white underneath to really make sure it's intense, intense, intense. Now I'm going to sharpen it in here. Don't worry about that. But the next thing we do need to do is grab a little bit on this brush, just a little bit on the fluffier brush to diffuse it. And I like to soften all around. We can even take some over here now. In fact, we might do that. Just a little bit. It's time for the duochrome. We're gonna grab a C30. These are $10 right now, by the way. Let's get ready. So excited. There it is. So it's like a greeny yellow shift. See that? That's the one we're going in for. Get down my brush. So the reason I'm using this brush is because it picks it up the way that your fingertip would, but you have more precision. Oh yeah, that's it. That's where we needed to go today. Wow, that is a pretty bomb duochrome right there. Feather it over here. And remember, to feather just means to lightly transition. Oh my gosh, you see the yellow, the pink, the green. We have fun here, y'all. And then feather it over this. And then I'm gonna grab my Stila liner. Look how smooth these are now. But I don't want to cover up too much of the duochrome. I just wanted to darken my lash line. Whew, yeah. Look how it's going over the duochrome. I should have left space for it, but I forgot. But it's not having an issue going over all of that pigment. And I feel like I haven't done a black waterline in a while, so let's do it. what I like to do is I'm going to take a brush, and you see how I'm just kind of ever so lightly pushing to expose my waterline. That way I don't touch my contact. Do this into a mirror and don't do it into your phone. Now I'm going to take my micellar water on a big fluffy brush, the E29. Even it out. And then I'm just going to tap and fade this upwards just a little bit. Isn't that cool? I'm going to wipe it off on Sheila. Gene Bean just napping away. Just wanted to move it upwards just a hair. Oh my gosh, this eye look is so cool. But I wanted to move it upwards because I do want to put concealer there in a second. Let's find some mascara and lashes now. Let's do our Game Changer lashes. These are the Lily Lashes one, and this is most certainly an ad because it says ad. And what you're seeing me do here, I'm not wrestling with them. I'm warming them up because they do need warmed up just a hair. Because then, when you grab them in the center, okay, and you place them right there where the eye sticks out the furthest, because the eyeball, the roundness of the eyeball is right there, so it's going to grab no matter your eye shape. Then it's going to hold on almost instantly. I'm going to do the same thing over here, and I'm letting it heat up more with my body heat before I start to finish that placement. But stick it right in the center. See, that one grab. This does a little grabby grab. We'll come back to this one. That is completely normal. Oh, and I definitely trim these, okay? I trim them. I definitely do. And I have videos on that on my recent saved highlights if you want to check that out. Here we go. Now, I'm going to finish this one over here for y'all. Get on there. Okay? And then we do the same thing over here. If that pops up in the front, that's okay because you do want to clamp them together. And I highly recommend lash applicators like this. Oh, it didn't pop up. I'm telling y'all, these are so good. I'm just so used to them popping up when I used to use the lash glue. And when I tell you, I do not miss the residue. Please, no more. No more residue. I don't even think I could ever go back to the other lashes to just glue like this. I don't even know where I put it anymore. Here's some. I'll never go back. I won't. I will say, Lily Lashes, can we get some lighter styles, some less floofy styles with the self-adhesive, please? Thank you. All right, I'm just being extra at this point, but I do want to put a little bit of this ColourPop duochrome stick right here in the center of my waterline because it's kind of that same duochrome. It's a pinky red green flip. I feel like I expected my under eye to look a little bit worse, but I think it's the neon kind of counteracting that. I'm still going to use a touch of my peach corrector, but I don't have to grab my heavy duty one. I'm just going to grab my Cali Ray. This is more of my everyday one. This corrector's so daggone much. Grab the C31. That way we can just focus it. He's literally honk shoeing. And if you're new here, welcome. We're so happy to have you. But if you're wondering what that snoring is, it's actually not even a dog. It's a big orange cat. Absolutely loving this foundation. But I will say, I went and looked the other day, and it's labeled on Sephora as medium coverage. It is not. That is quite a stretch. I do not want you to go to Sephora and go, I'm after a medium coverage foundation. This is not it. I'm going to show you what a medium coverage foundation is, because this one is more of a light coverage. I want to say it's buildable to light coverage. It's kind of less coverage than light, but it does have, its strengths are that it's one of the most blurring light coverage foundations I've ever seen. And this isn't negative in any way. I love it. I can't stop wearing it. But I'm okay with a light coverage foundation. But I do think it's a little misleading that it's labeled medium coverage. So this is the screenshot I just took off the Sephora app. It does say medium coverage. Now, radiant finish and hydrating, yes. And it has a really beautiful blur that you don't normally see. But blur doesn't mean medium coverage. And also, I really don't find this formula buildable because it's so wet that it just keeps going on top of wet, on top of wet, on top of wet. So then it starts to get patchy. And these aren't negative things. I just don't want you to go into this expecting a buildable medium coverage foundation. I want you to be on the hunt for a light coverage, very light coverage foundation that has a lot of, has a very radiant finish, but does have some blur to it. That's what I want you to look for if you purchase it. Do not look for a medium coverage. Don't even try to think this is medium coverage. It's not. So if you're wanting a medium coverage foundation, this is exactly a medium coverage foundation. Both formulas. They have one for balanced to dry and one for combo oily skin. This is the Revlon. This has been one of my favorite foundations for many moons now. But that being said, this is a medium coverage foundation. This is not. And I won't even say this will go to full. Let's just say this is a medium coverage. And this one, because it's not as wet as this one, even the balanced to dry formula, which is the one that I wear, this one's still not as wet as this one, and this one is not buildable. It's not. It's not bad. These are not bad things. I just want you to be completely informed if you invest. No, that's 𝗕𝗄𝘁𝗀𝘀𝗵𝗲𝘀. I'm still going to use it. I absolutely love it. I do need a darker shade. I'm happy I have this one though, because wintertime Rose, she's coming up because she doesn't like to go outside if it dips past 68. Hey, I was born and raised here in Texas, so I'm cold all the time and I'm so used to heat. I am a lizard. So let's grab this. I'm going to put this one underneath because I feel that this one is going to give us a little bit more coverage because this is a more full coverage bronzer. We talked about that on Thursday or Friday. I can't remember. Just our last talk through. So I'm going to use this one instead of the serum to get a little bit more coverage. And this is going to help darken. And this brush is also coming back very soon as well. If you like creams and you do any kind of underpainting, this brush is heavenly for that. Just absolutely heavenly. Now I'm gonna go in pretty heavy because I'm trying to, look how even that blend is. I'm telling you, this brush is magical. Can't wait for it to come back. But what I'm doing here is I'm actually changing the color and darkening my foundation. So that's why I'm using so much. This isn't even how much I would normally use with a foundation that did match me to underpaint. But this is me trying to fix the foundation and continue to use it. And by the way, it did wear beautifully. This foundation, it wears perfectly. It wore 9 hours perfectly. The Mario powder, love that one. Haven't tried the pink one yet, so I can't say anything about that. But the one I do have, which I'm gonna use again today, I've had perfect wear times. Perfect. So that's wonderful. And even with how dewy this foundation is, it wears beautifully with the powders and the concealers. This brush even feels good. It feels so comfortable to tap it on your face like this. And also make sure we give it a really good shake. I've already shaken it, so you're gonna see me start to pump, and I shake it for about 30 seconds. And I'll say, in my experience with this one, a pump and a half is about all my face wants of this before it just gets wet and then it gets difficult to deal with. So, but I will say it's not like it's a small pump. That's quite a bit of foundation, but any more than this, and it was a little too wet on my face. And remember, I'm balanced to dry, so it's not even like I have an oily skin type. And that's why I keep bringing you back to layering with it and trying to build it up. If you're having to put a lot of foundation on your face to get the coverage you're after, you might just want to reconsider your foundation and up your coverage. You might just want to go to a medium coverage or even a full coverage, because you actually wind up using less because the pigments and the formula are doing the work for you. So keep that in mind. I thought I hit record. I did hit record and then Instagram didn't load and then I thought it did. I don't know what's going on. I do apologize. It's normally not this out of control. You did actually miss Gene go honk shoe. He literally went honk psh. It was the cutest thing ever. And you missed it, and I do apologize. This match looks pretty good. My hair has my chest a little red. I'm gonna put a little bit. I have just a little bit left. See how much? That's way too light. And that's a really good, this is a good tip. Again, this is such light coverage that my undertone's gonna be able to peek through. See that? So I didn't have to worry too much, but on my face I would, because I'm using more there. But as I was saying, so this is as much as we can put on our face right now, but look at how good it does look. It looks incredible, and that's without concealer. And I'm telling you, this is an exceptional formula. It's just not medium coverage, and it's not buildable. It's too wet to continue to build up. But I will say I did get more coverage by using the more full coverage bronzer, so that's a good thing. And I will get a darker shade. I will. But I'm not gonna waste this. Now, I'm actually not as tan as I have been all summer, so I can use my 𝗂𝘳 concealer again, and it won't be too light for me. This is shade 2.6C. Yep. Know it by heart, just double checking. And I'm gonna do quite a bit because it's Feral Monday and I just want more coverage. Now you can build your concealer on top of it. Absolutely, on top of the foundation is what I was saying. But we don't always want to wear this much concealer. And then stay tuned, something's coming back. Something from Rose and Ben Beauty. Here we go. Oh yeah, that's a perfect color now. We're September Rose now, not July and August Rose. A lot going on. You know, let me talk a little bit about 𝗂𝘳. When they first launched their concealers, they really focused heavily on warmer undertones, like most brands do. And I feel like that's just kind of the industry norm. But 𝗂𝘳 was a brand that actually listened. And they heard us say, 𝗂𝘳, we really like this formula, but we need cooler shades. And you know what? By golly, they did. They gave us cooler shades. And I was on that campaign when they released more shades, and I was honored to be on that campaign because I love a brand that listens. So thank you, 𝗂𝘳. We love you so much. And also, if you ever want to try this concealer, or you did try this concealer, it already has so much skincare in it that I would scale back on my eye cream when I use it. So while we're in this wet state, this is gonna get wild, I'm gonna teach you something. You put on your makeup seatbelts. If you ever kind of want to shift your foundation, I want you to grab, this is new from 𝗂𝘳. I'm so excited. We're actually going on Wednesday to go with them to celebrate the launch. I'm honored, delighted to be invited. Delighted to be invited. But back to this. We're very wet. The foundation is wet. And that means, think of it as eyeshadow primer. It wants to go and grab that pigment. So I'm gonna take this peachy shade. This one's meant for darker skin tones, but we're using it in a fun way. We're gonna grab it, still using a fluffier brush. What happens when we use a fluffier brush? We get a more diffused look. I'm gonna use this to darken my foundation a little bit more. It's not gonna turn it peachy. It's just grabbing it and darkening it. Isn't that cool? So I would not only use this obviously to brighten in deeper skin tones, but we could even use this to darken and adjust our foundations. Look at how much better that looks. Now I'm not going to use this underneath my eye because I want my under eye to be brighter. I want that to come more forward, but you can see that this just looks like it flows so much better now. I'm trying to do more on this side. I want you to kind of see it. But still use, see how it's not completely setting. We still want to use a setting powder, but we're using the pigment here to our advantage to darken. Makeup is so much fun and the possibilities are endless, and there's almost nothing we cannot fix. Oh, and one more thing, if I wanted to actually set my makeup, I would have set with a puff, but I'm not setting, I'm adding pigment to darken. So I don't want to set at this stage. No, we don't want to set because I still want to even use one of my Calibre blushes, but I do want to add color to all of the wet foundation. Now let's do our blush. Let's use this shade. We're going to use the shade Zen. I want to keep it peachy. Nice. I'll just use my C41 I have right here. I love this formula. This formula is so satisfying. Nice. Next round. My brush just hit my Stanley situation here. And then a little there, and then a little where the sun actually hits. And I'm still gonna add some more bronzer, which I'm about to do now. I'll actually just use this bronzer, the YSL one that we already used for our transition. And watch, let's take a little bit here too. Just a smidge. Light tap, tap it there. And then I'm gonna tap it in here. Let it tie in. That is so easy to fix in this state. We kind of want it to get a little aggressive. Pretty. And this is shade 3, by the way. Normally I use shade 2, but this one, like I said, has a little bit more of the green. And don't panic, I'm getting wild. Yes, I am. Even that's fine because we're still in a wet state. So when I go to blend this with my foundation brush, it's going to be even more melty. It's actually easier. All right, nice. See what I'm talking about? Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. And then you can really blend and tidy and melt. All right, let me show you here too. I'm actually thinking I'm gonna do a C31 just to keep a little bit of the definition there. There we go. And then back down. And I know you're thinking, Rose, you have powder on. I was just using that for its pigment. We are not set at all. We're nice and we're still not super wet, but we're not set. That's a nice blend. Now we're going to use this wet concealer to our advantage. I'm going to grab this shade. There we go. Apparently it's my first time picking up eyeshadow. And since all of this is nice and wet underneath here, I'm not going to have any fluffing because all of that juiciness is just grabbing that powder. So it's not going to go down here. So this is a really good tip for y'all. And then I'm even going to grab some of the bronzer and use that as the transition underneath this. And then I shall set my under eye. Gosh, this inner corner is stunning to me. You might hate it. You might be punching the screen right now, but I love it. Now back into that same bronzer, and it's on the tip of the brush, and I'm just gonna set there and kind of transition that olivey shade. Nice. Kind of want to blur these edges with the bronzer just a hair. Just melt a little. Now it's time to set and then brighten. Setting and brightening are different. Setting. It's usually a more matte satin. A matin, sometimes we like to say around here. This Mario one is going to be considered a setting powder. And what that setting does, what setting means is to lock it in place. No more moving, no more adjusting. You're locked in, your makeup's not going anywhere. So that's a setting powder that goes on wet foundation. I love this Mario one. I'm really loving it. I'm excited to try the pink one. I'm not gonna say that it's gonna replace my Givenchy, the original. The new formula is just not what I was used to anymore. And it's not a formula I would reach for, but I love, if I had never tried the Givenchy, the original formula, this would be my favorite powder. Now, one thing I really do love about this powder is that there's a touch of a tint to it. And when you have pigment in a powder and you're putting that on top of your pigment, think your foundation, think your concealer, even your bronzer, what you're gonna do is you're gonna have the thinnest form of extra coverage. So it's actually quite genius that he did a little bit of a pigment, and that's why they're called, this one in particular, the one I'm using is Neutral Peach. So now I don't want you to worry too much about the color just being, the way that we worry about foundation or concealer matching our undertone and our skin tone, it's not quite that worrisome, and that you don't need to be that pinpointed, but you are going to see a difference in a good way on the blur, which is the extra pigment. Now, what's a brightening powder? Brightening is something I like to do after I have on my actual color. I don't like to put, which we're going to use the 𝗂𝗲 one, absolutely love it, 12 out of 10, 20 out of 10. But I don't like to put, especially not at my not spring chicken age anymore. Listen, I'm a nice, healthy yard bird, and I'm okay with it. But I do not have those beautiful spring chicken under eyes that I once had, and that's okay because I can still use the brightening powder. I just use it differently. So we all know I look for concealers, foundations, everything that are extremely thin but extremely pigmented. That way I get the impact that I'm after, but I don't have all of the weight underneath here. So what I do is, see how my under eyes don't really differ too much from my skin tone. They're not super bright. I use that as balance. That way I can go in with this powder. Jean, do you want to go outside, baby? Let's pick it up, same puff. And then I can brighten. And then it doesn't turn gray. Oh Lord, he's turning into a little piggy. Oh, it's so good. And this stuff is so thin. And if you really wanted to brighten, you could do this on top of your little bit more wet concealer. Don't be frightened. We got techniques for days here. And then we just dust that, just the edges. I'm not gonna go into, oh, it's so good. It's so good, you're just going to love it. You're absolutely gonna love this powder. But it's not gonna turn gray now because of that balance that we had underneath it. But you can see that this side is so much brighter. So I'm gonna go ahead and brighten up here. I'm going pretty heavy too, because I let it kind of just really brighten. I won't apply this much underneath my eyes though. And then I take my brush and then I just kind of push it in. And this honestly looks like a filter. Everything 𝗂𝗲 says about, oh gosh, that looks like a filter. Everything 𝗂𝗲 says about this powder is actually what the powder does. Stunning. I'm over the moon for this. Over the moon. All right. I'm trying to stay hydrated. By the way, I never got a Stanley. Tweezerman sent me this for their rose gold, and I love it. I don't know why it does that. Sometimes I wonder. Maybe it thought I was giving you a thumbs up. I don't know, but thank you, Tweezerman. I drink out of this every day, and I love it. It's very lovely, and I would have never gotten this for myself. So thank you. And this is something that I don't normally do on camera, pluck my chin hair and my nose hair, but just, yeah, we're not that close. But just know, I mean, I use my Tweezerman tweezers every single day. I don't even know, it's like the only tweezer I've ever known, so thanks again for the cup. So I have absolutely fallen in love with these. I want to use this more brown shade. This is 08. I'm going to do a rough draft. By the way, I bought all of the Maybelline lip liners. And I am not disappointed. They just came in, but I've already swatched them. This one is meow meow meow. That's not what it is. Cross the line. Jean. So I'm just doing a rough draft. We'll come back to this, but this is 08 iced brown. I know it's 08, and I'll get you the link. This is just such an exceptional formula. It's so pigmented and it's so pretty, but it's so comfortable. I can't explain it. It does not feel the way that it looks. But this is what I was talking about. I always like to grab my lip liner and then kind of perfect. And then we gotta clean up. And then I like to use powder foundation. This is the one I tagged earlier from Natasha Denona. Grab that on a C30. And then we were able to create a barrier and tidy up. All right, I'm gonna finish my inner corner. Just take a little bit down here on the E27. Okay, all done. We're out of control. We as in me. I love how this is so blown out towards the front, and blown out just means no structure. It's a good way to put it. See, it's just this, it's an explosion of color, but then we have the definition out this way. So much fun. So since Thursday, I'm gonna be doing a tutorial. I know I'll do some type of tutorial because I'm gonna be traveling. I'll be with 𝗂𝗃. Tomorrow I thought, because I actually just had y'all request that we swatch all of the Maybelline lip liners that I purchased. Okay, swatch those. And then you wanted to see the rest of these swatched. This one's my favorite, 04. That's the one that I just posted yesterday. But we can swatch, and I don't have all of these, but we can swatch what I have. And we'll kind of just do our talk through tomorrow and maybe get on the right track of what powder is good for us, and maybe even talk more about foundations. Because what I mentioned today about the Patrick Ta is really important, because sometimes we're piling on a ton of a light, very light coverage foundation, and then we're not liking the way it wears when we should just change the formula. So yeah, I just had another one come in about setting, the difference between setting powders. So I think that we'll talk a little bit about the coverage. There's just those two, just a hair. It's not going to be a crazy in-depth thing. But like I said, I have a lot of meetings tomorrow, so we're kind of going to move Thursday to tomorrow because you'll still get your tutorials. I might not be able to do a tutorial on Wednesday because that's the day I'm flying out, and we fly out very early, and I know I'm going to be in a hurry. I'm going to take Doug with me. Doug's going to go in his little carrier. He's such a good boy. He flies with me. He does fly with me quite a bit, so he's very used to it. But I'm going to have to get him ready, and he's a hiss and a half. So I'm going to try, but I know I have to leave here by 9 a.m., so let me try, but it would still just be my airport makeup, which we've already seen, and that's kind of boring. So maybe I can get to LA, set up, and then do an evening tutorial. I'm going to try my best. But y'all know that you're my #1 priority. When it comes to these tutorials, they mean the world to me. So if I'm not doing them, it's because I actually cannot. I never just go, I don't really feel like doing a tutorial. These tutorials are so much fun. I get to do them with you, and I just feel like they're part of me at this point. We've been doing them Monday through Friday since 2018. Okay? So these mean a lot to me, and they're part of my routine, and they just make me feel complete. So just remember, if I'm not doing one, it's not because I'm going, I don't feel like it. It's because I can't. I'm in meetings, or I'm traveling, or I was with family. That's enough of that family stuff. All right, I love y'all so much. I'm actually excited to talk through formulas tomorrow. I think it'll help you because I feel like we're going into the season where some of us start to buy a little bit more makeup. I always feel like in the fall, we just buy more makeup. I think because we're not hot anymore, so we're like, I want to wear a little extra. So I want to walk you through that and make sure that we're finding formulas and buying formulas that what we're actually after. So that'll be really fun. All right, I love you with all of my heart. I'm not going to post tonight, but I'm always here in the DMs. I love you. Have a good rest of your day or evening.